How many members of President Trump's cabinet lives need to be threatened before the Democrats wake up?
If we're the majority, we need to use the power we get to shut this White House down. We do that, I think one of the best ways is through committee hearings and investigations. I want the Trump administration not to function because everyone in the White House is being hauled under subpoena in front of a Senate committee day after day after day. Using subpoena power, bringing people in for investigations, that keeps them busy. And that doesn't allow them to go start another stupid war. That doesn't allow them to continue to give billionaires more and more and more of our economy.
See, I think that the people of Maine see in him the embodiment of what the state stands for, that kind of rugged individualism. Look at the guy, an oyster farmer, making his living from the land. He reflects what when people look at him and say, yeah, he's from Maine, with pride, even though he's, he may seem unusual for idiosyncratic for a politician, but he's obviously hit a chord, and he's for real. He's stuck around. His popularity has been pretty consistent.
That was a lot more measured answer, than what you're getting out of some other people like Seth Moulton, who came on CNN last night and effectively argued that Pete Hegseth should be executed for war crimes. I mean, that actually probably sounded far more reasonable than that. I suspect the rhetoric on the Democrats, though, is going to get more extreme, not less. But that sounded more reasonable than some of the other things we're hearing.
This is what Scott Jennings was referring to in regards to Seth Moulton's threat to Pete Hegseth.
You said, we will give them no quarter, no mercy. In order for no quarter or no survivors is a war crime under the Geneva Conventions. You understand that's murder. Do you stand by that statement?
The Department of War fights to win, and we ensure that our warfighters have the rules of engagement necessary to be as effective as humanly possible.
Okay, so just to be clear, you called Democratic members of Congress to be tried for sedition for reminding our troops to follow the law. But when you tell them to commit a war crime, you stand by yourself.
Do you believe that the Secretary of Defense is guilty of war crimes?
Absolutely. I mean, he's clearly behind the operation to shoot all these boats in the Caribbean when it's very unclear that we actually have any confirmation that these so-called narco-terrorists, a term the administration invented to justify this action, are even on the boats. I mean, in fact, there's a lot of evidence that these are just fishermen, getting jobs, piloting these boats, trying to feed their families. There's been press reporting on some of these individuals who've been killed, who are clearly not war criminals. And on top of that, we then have the strike where they came back and hit it again, a double tap, just purely to kill these survivors who were clinging to wreckage. It's interesting, Aaron, another historical analogy. Back in World War II, the Allies tried Nazi submarine captains for doing this exact same thing. And guess what the conclusion was? They got executed. Listen to that, Mr. Secretary.
So let me ask.
So again, Moulton here is doing what the Democrats always do, right from their playbook. They just tug at people's heartstrings and emotions with emotional facts themselves. Do you think that the Trump administration and Pete Hegseth is just randomly destroying these boats because they assume that they're full of drugs and they have no intelligence about who's sending them, where they're coming from, so on and so forth? I really don't think that's the issue right here. Okay. There's never been a case where I've seen Trump just randomly destroying some things or anything, even from his first presidency. Now here's a collection of clips of the actual boats that were destroyed, blown out of the water.
Since early September, President Donald Trump has ordered a series of controversial military strikes on boats in the Caribbean and the Eastern Pacific. The administration says the vessels were smuggling drugs from Venezuela and from Colombia. But officials in both countries and many in Washington are questioning whether that's true and whether these strikes are even legal. It started on September 2nd when President Trump posted a video online that showed what he said was a strike on a, quote, Venezuelan narco-terrorist boat. He claimed the 11 people killed were linked to Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. Maduro denied it.
Venezuela es un país libre de producción de hoja de coca, libre de producción de cocaína.
Less than 2 weeks later, there was another strike, this time killing 3 people. When asked by reporters about that strike, Trump said the incident occurred in international waters, and he insisted, quote, we have proof. That boat was carrying drugs because of the cargo that was in the ocean. On September 19th, the third strike followed, killing 3 more people. Trump alleged that they were working for an unspecified, quote, designated terrorist organization. On October 3rd, Trump announced a 4th strike, 4 people killed, claiming that the vessel carried enough drugs to kill, quote, 25 to 50,000 people. Colombian President Gustavo Petro said one of those killed was a Colombian fisherman and was not involved in drug trafficking.
No hay necesidad de tirar misiles, es absolutamente ineficaz. Y no parece estar dirigida esa acción realmente a incautar cocaína, sino a una invasión, que también es absurdamente ilegal.
Trump used a Navy anniversary speech to announce yet another strike. 6 men killed in the Caribbean.
In recent weeks, the Navy has supported our mission to blow the cartel terrorists the hell out of the water. You see that?
And just days after that, on October 16th, a strike left 2 survivors. They were quickly handed over to their home countries of Colombia and Ecuador, a move that prevented them from challenging their detention in court. Authorities in Ecuador later declined to file charges against their national, but Colombia said they would pursue a legal investigation on their individual.
Okay, so I'm no boat expert, but why not look it up and see what these fishing boats really look like? So these are your typical fishing boats here. I don't see any resemblance to the ones that got blown out. Usually fishing boats are pretty stationary, and I would assume that the ones that were blown out were out pretty far. Fishing boats tend to stay a little bit around the coast, as I understand. Now, I'm no fishing expert, but that's just my opinion. And the 2 people that were caught that survived the boat being blown out of the water, why aren't their countries pursuing Trump and their administration? Maybe they were drug peddlers after all. Maybe they were trying to bring drugs to the United States. Now, back to what Moulton said regarding the Nazis and what they did in World War II and when they were tried in the Nuremberg trials because of that. What they did was completely different than what Trump is doing here. What they were doing was that they were blowing out of the water and targeting these supply boats that were bringing food and other provisions and things to Great Britain during World War II with the effort of trying to starve Britain and pressure them into a surrender. Here, these are targeted attacks. They're not just randomly destroying fishing boats. Other than that, what the Trump administration is doing is halting drug boats from bringing in deadly drugs into the United States and distributing it to the American people. Tens of thousands have died from fentanyl and other drug overdoses throughout the years, and Trump is finally putting a stop to it. Now, we all know that the Democrats can't resist comparing Trump and his administration and even his supporters to Nazis and fascists. It's just something that they go to as a default when they really don't have anything else on us. And they assume that the American people are too stupid to actually look at the facts and, Google what happened in World War II, like I had done, as compared to what Moulton is saying that Pete Hegseth is guilty of. But that's why we're here, folks. Now, what do you think? Please let me know in the comments below. Do you think Pete Hegseth is guilty of war crimes? Do you think he should be executed like the Nazis were? And also make sure to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so you don't miss out on any future posts.